Welcome to Commander Central, episode 323, and today we're going to be talking about tribes in EDH and which ones we think could use a little more help. I'm Max.
I'm Chris.
Chris, happy Friday. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm alive. I have a lot going on today, so...
I was going to say, you've been helping out at the shop quite a bit this week because our owners are expecting their newborn pretty soon, so...
Yep.
You've been manning down the fort there, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, today's my wife's birthday, too, so I don't know exactly what we're going to do, but we'll figure something out.
And you definitely need to figure something out.
I don't know. I think I'm just going to go get some confetti cannons and shoot her with them when she comes home.
Oh, there you go.
No, that doesn't sound like... Because then I'll have to clean it up. I mean, that's the worst part.
That's what your son's for. You want to make $5? Sweep it up.
No, yeah, sure. You want to borrow him for a day and see how he cleans?
No. Probably just as well as I do, to be honest. So it is just you and I today. Dana is helping out with some family stuff this morning. So it's just you and I. Have you gotten to play any games recently, Chris?
Yeah, I played 2 games last night.
Did you get to play with your new decks that you've been making?
No, I didn't get to finish Crick. It's one that I'm working on right now. I have majority of the cards. I just have to actually sit down, get it sleeved up type of deal. And then the Counterspell one, I still am unsold onto what general I want to run. Like, I wanted to run Urza, because I want to play the artifacts too, because I have a bunch of cool artifacts I want to use, but I might change it up, because one of the guys at the shop showed me a card that I forgot was legendary, and that's the Reality Chip. So I've actually been contemplating on running that as my general instead. That's
the one that lets you look at the top card of your library, and then when it's equipped to something, you get to do something else, right?
You can cast or play the top card of your library. So you can play lands off the top of your library, too.
Very nice.
Yep.
Awesome. I spent the last couple days updating all of my decks.
Oh, boy.
I think I put 9 new cards into Obosh.
Oh, so nice.
Yeah.
Updating is by far the hardest part about decks. I've noticed that. Because I have so many cards I need to update into my decks. I'm just like, I don't even know what to cut anymore. So now they just sit on my table, and I'm like, one of these days I'll update these things.
Yeah, but it's so rewarding when you finally are happy with the swaps you make.
Yeah.
And then just getting to play it. So I'm looking forward to testing that deck out. I kind of took out a lot of the reanimation pieces and just put in a bunch of odd mana valued beaters that have cool abilities, like the Elder Brain. Or Balor.
I gotta get me one of those Elder Brains. I want the buy box promo, though, so I gotta find someone who's got one.
I cracked one in a booster pack that I got from Target, so I'm like, well, this will go into one deck, I don't know which one, and it went into Ubosh just because of the odd mana value over Regnant Crow just being a big beater that'll let me cast more cards.
Nice. Yeah, my games last night were interesting. First game I played Spiders, so it was Spiders versus that ninja frog dude.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of what he's called. He's the Simic ninja frog.
Yeah, he makes the toads.
Yep. Don't remember. Oh, the other kid was playing the Blitz Commander, the Jund Blitz Commander.
Nice.
And then the final person was playing, I don't remember what it was now. It was Red something or another. I don't know. They're making lots of treasures, and I just went, ended up flipping my Guy's Cradle enchantment. I can't even think of the name of it now off the top of my head.
Growing Rights of Itlamok.
Yep. Jammed a doubling season. Had sort of Hearth and Home out there, so I was ramping a whole bunch of lands, and I'm just like, do something about this, guys. So they got rid of my sword and my doubling season, and I'm just like, okay. And then I got milled like half my deck. I'm like, okay. Cast my General Delirium. Cool, make some spiders. Then I cast Spider Spawning and made like 12 spiders because I had them in the graveyard. Then flashed it back, and I'm just like, okay, you guys have to deal with this, otherwise you guys just die. And they're like, oh, I don't know what we can do. And they're like, how are we going to die? And I'm like, drain you for like 12, and then untap and drain you for 12. And they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Jeez, that sounds like a heck of a game.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah. If you want to tell us about your recently played games or any updates you've made to your deck, how would they do that, Chris?
Well, you can find us on a multitude of social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter at CMDR Central. You can search us up on Facebook, CMDR Central. You can find us on YouTube by searching CMDR Central, and you can also find us online at cmdrcentral.com.
You can also head over to patreon.com/CMDR Central. Check out our reward tiers, such as joining our community and playing virtual EDH with everybody. So, Chris, we're going to talk about tribal decks in EDH. I know this is a topic that I kind of find fun because I've built tribal decks in the past. You have, Dana has. Do you currently have any tribal decks put together? And by tribal, I mean traditional creature type. We're not talking like flying tribal like my Dramoka deck. That's more of a theme than a tribe.
Technically, I still have my 5-color Angels.
Okay.
There's a few cards missing out of it, but it's not a deck that I choose that I want to play anymore, so it just kind of sits there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't have a tribal deck anymore either. I used to have a zombie deck with Gisa and Geralf from Eldritch Moon. In the past, I've done like Soldier Tribal with Tajik, Blade of the Legion. And for a while during call time, I was debating putting together an elf deck.
Yeah, I've seen... So this is just like insider knowledge, working at a card store and stuff like that. But I've seen a lot of people going into dragons just due to the simple fact of how many dragons came out in Baldur's Gate. So I've been seeing that a lot lately.
Yeah, that between Baldur's Gate and what was Adventures of the Forgotten Realm had a bunch of dragons too.
Yeah, that and then what was the other big tribe came out of Kamigawa? I think it was Kamigawa. The Shrines, I think, was out of Kamigawa. I think that was the other great big tribe that everyone was working into. Because you got the tribal, the Shrine General, whatever, Shintai, I think it was, or something like that. So
Yeah, those are definitely some of the more popular recently tribes. But when you think about tribes, what are like some of the first ones that pop into your mind when thinking specifically about EDH?
Oh, EDH. Ooh, I was going to say, I got some big tribes that pop in my head right away, but EDH base, probably the biggest tribe I think of immediately is Slivers.
Yep.
Because it's so easy to do in EDH and everyone likes them, and then they realize that it's actually more of a hindrance to play it, and they pull off it and then go into something else.
Yep, I totally agree. Slivers is the first tribe I think of. You've had a Slivers deck. I've played against other content creators' Slivers decks, and, it helps where in the top 3 or 4 Sliver commanders all do really cool things, like one's a combo machine, one's a token generator, one just makes them all indestructible. So there's so many options to lead your Sliver EDH deck.
Yeah, I think if I had to go the number 2 deck that I see the most of for tribal, and that'd probably be Goblins running this Krenko,
The original Krenko or the new Krenko?
The original, where I think it's you tap them and you create goblins equal to the number of goblins you control or whatever, so...
Yep. See, I always go next to elves. Like, elves are just the next thing that pop in my head when I think tribes, because I think it's a great intro to EDH type deck.
Okay.
They're easy.
I can see that.
And it's the best color in Magic. Come on, people. But
it's probably the most played tribe if you ever look at a deck list, per se. Like, and we're not talking like full tribal. We're talking just, if you look at every single deck list out there and you see which creature type is probably played the most, out of all of them, it's probably elves.
Yeah. I would think that. I have EDH Rec up in front of me on the tribes page, and elves is actually 3rd with the 19,000 dedicated elves decks.
Wow, that's a lot of decks.
Yep, and it's 19,614. Second place is dragons at 19,946. And Chris, do you want to guess the number 1 tribe according to EDH Rec?
Angels.
No.
Ooh.
Zombies with over 20,000 decks.
I should have guessed zombies. I mean, that just made sense with the amount of zombie support that came out between all the Innistrad sets, and every set you get a new zombie of some sort, and I mean, and then they did the double features that opened up, more cards that just hit the card pool, and I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. Chris, you said something interesting right there, that every set you get some sort of zombie. And maybe that's why these 3 to... And you know what? I'll do the top 5. Number 4 is vampires, and number 5 is humans.
Okay.
And 6 is goblins. So there's your top 6 tribes on EDH Rec. But you're right. Every set, whether it's a quote-unquote core set or, a Return to Ravnica type set or Kamigawa, you're getting at least one of these card types in that card pool.
You sure are.
Some sets obviously give you way more than others. When we go back to Dominaria, we'll probably get a bunch of elves. When we go back to Tarkir eventually, we'll get a bunch of dragons. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Angels is number 8, Chris. I'm sorry.
I see a lot of people building angels or playing angels, so that's why I was just curious.
Yeah. Do you think that's because it's more battle cruisery? When you look at something like my Dromoka deck, the creature base is 85% angels.
I also hate to say it, but it might be a monetary thing. I mean, while, dragons are expensive too, people who want to play dragons build dragons, so they just get the cards. A lot of the angel cards are just, expensive cards for no reason. Like the good ones, like you take, for instance, like Archangel of Thune, or like Resplendent Angel or stuff like that. They're ridiculously expensive for no good reason. So that could be a reason why. That's just my personal guess on that.
Yeah, that's a great thinking, factoring the monetary value. I mean, when I think about angels, you're right. The good ones are expensive. Your Lyra Dawnbringers, your Avacyn Angel of Hope. So it's not a thing where like, oh, this card costs 1,000 mana. It's still a $40 card,
Yes.
Because I think maybe it's the fact that angels are supposed to protect us, so maybe that's why a lot of these have really cool abilities. Lyra is an anthem for all your other angels. Giada Font of Hope, I mean, that's a $4 card right now, but once it rotates, I bet that'll be one of those cards in EDH that is a $10 card.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, things like Kali of the Vast, that's like the OG angel commander from the original commander sets. That's had a couple of reprints and it's still $25.
I say, if she wouldn't have seen a reprint, she would have been god-awful expensive.
Yeah. I mean, Aurelia the War Leader is a $20-some card.
Still?
Yeah, she's getting another reprint, though, in Double Masters 2, right?
I don't think it's really going to matter.
No.
If she is. And it's not Double Masters. Let's just get that out of the way right now. It's Commander Legends 3. So...
We'll save that for another show. We'll save that for another show because I have thoughts on that set. So, Chris, what do you think are the positives of building a tribal deck?
Positives of building a tribal deck are probably the synergy of the deck. The deck synergizes a lot better than a deck that's just willy-nilly thrown together, because there is a lot of different support cards. Like, you have your Anthem type cards. So let's take, for instance, Vanquisher's Banner. I'm thinking of, just so I'm going to take this all back, everything I said earlier, I do have a tribal deck right now, and that's Tribal Spiders.
You do? I was going to say, you actually said you played it too.
Yeah. Wow, I'm going to get called out hard on that one.
You were up till 4 a.m. You're allowed one mistake.
Yeah, because I was actually thinking about my tribal deck of what I'm playing, that synergizes with it. So cards like Vanquisher's Banner, other stuff like that gives you that option of, like for me, it's card draw and, you get the Anthem thing. And I think it just synergizes just by actually playing the deck itself. You don't have to actually put in certain key pieces to make it synergize. It just synergizes well together as it is.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think tribes are fun because they are exactly that. They synergize kind of automatically as long as you go pretty deep in the dedication of, I am just running these type of creatures,
Yes.
I'm not trying to knock anybody who does this, but I've ran into people saying, oh, I'm playing an elf deck, and they run like 4 elves. It's like, how is this an elf deck? It's like, okay.
My commander's an elf, and I create elf tokens or something, yeah.
Exactly. I also think they're great for, like, newer players. Maybe not brand new, but, like, that next step of, like, I want to try building my own EDH deck. I always say, you should try a tribe, because it lends itself to easy building.
Yes, it's also easy for research purposes, because it's just like, type in elves into Scryfall or whatnot, and it just pops up all your elves, and you don't have to really dig too much deeper than that. It's just like, okay, this is all the elves there are. I can do this, and then I can figure out what works with them for like the other pieces, like my artifacts and enchantments and whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah. I also think that there's times where the tribe doesn't synergize as well as easily. It does, but not as easily. You were talking angels. When I think about
that's hard to build.
It's hard to build because you're looking at a bunch of 4 to 5 drop cards, if not more.
Yep.
And the fact that, you have to play that type of tribal deck way differently than you would play goblins or elves, which are more rolling snowballs, I would say. Like you put 1 down, the next turn you're putting 2 down, the next turn you're putting 4 down, and then all of a sudden on turn 5 you drop a Crater Hoof and you win the game.
Yes.
Where angels, you're not playing 3 angels a turn unless, you're in green or something.
Oh, even, I don't... Yeah, I think most angels, I think the cheapest angel out there's 3 drop, and majority of them are 5 drop, so usually you're not playing more than 2 spells a turn.
Right, and even the ones that are cheaper to cast, like in the 2 mana, have those conditions of you can't play this on your first 3 turns.
Yep.
And in EDH, that's a long time compared to a 1v1. Like, playing that Sarah, I think it's Sarah Avenger, right? That's the one that says...
That's a 2-drop, yeah.
The 2-drop, 3/3, and you can't play it for your first 3 turns.
Yep.
That's 10 minutes in a 1v1 match. That could be half an hour in a multiplayer pod.
Yeah, unless you're playing fast, and some people I know, they just play like land go, land go, land go, and you're like, oh, sweet.
Exactly. Are there any tribes out there, Chris, that you would like to build? I mean, you've built angels, you have spiders, you've done advisors. I mean, you had a persistent petitioners deck for a while. Is there any tribe that you would be interested in trying to build that maybe isn't as popular as the top 8? You know what I mean?
Not anything that I want to build. I've been looking at them, and there's nothing that's like tribal based that I thought would be fun to build. But I do have another one that's going to kind of turn into tribal. That's going to be like a horrors, because my mill deck's turning into where the general's a horror and he creates horrors, you know, and it's only going to have like maybe a couple of other creatures in there if it's lucky, other than like the horror cards that create. So technically it'd be tribal, but it's not going to be dedicated tribal.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've always wanted to build like rogues or like pirates, but we'll get into this later. But my biggest issue is there's never a commander that really helps with the tribe. And I think that's where I think a lot of other tribes lack to making them great. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You think about elves, you could put any elf in front of your deck, mono green, green black, green red, whatever. Dragons is the same thing. You could play monocolored dragons, 2-color dragons, 3-color dragons, 5-color dragons, whatever you want. And you always have great choices for whatever color combinations you want to play for those type of tribes.
Yes.
But when you look at something like rogues, you have a bunch of different color choices. You have Dimir, you have Orzhov, you have Golgari, apparently. Simic, like Edric is Simic. But they either make you focus on running a bunch of little creatures, which rogues are, but it's really hard to get damage through when you're playing colors that maybe don't have overrun effects.
Yes, or they don't have you have a certain amount of abilities that make them unblockable, or key aspects like that, where they have menace or other things like that. It just becomes too many revolving pieces to make the deck actually work properly.
Okay, Chris, let's talk about tribes we think need more help.
Oofs.
Oofs. Because there isn't a legendary oof yet, is there?
I don't think so. I'm just remembering I asked all my coworkers what they thought and the tribes that they had, and one of the persons was like oofs, and the other guy was like frogs, and I was like, there are frog ones. He's like, they're not good enough, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, oofs and frogs are great out of the box examples, which I don't think we can probably pull enough data to talk about. Some of the ones that first come to my mind are like Atogs, because Atogs have been around forever. We just got a new one.
There's just not a lot of them.
There are not.
Maybe 10 maybe now?
Type Atog, there are 12 now.
Okay.
And one of them is the legendary creature.
The 5-mana one?
The 5-mana one.
Yep. But doesn't he eat other Atogs? So then it's like, I only have 12 of them anyways, so...
Yep, sacrifice an Atog, it gets +X, where X was the sacrifice Atog's power.
Yes.
And every Atog is a 1/2, except for one, which is a 3/4.
Yeah, those types of decks, granted, I'm sure people are yelling at us right now because I'm about to say, what they're probably thinking too, and that is, there are changelings.
Yep.
So changelings do, they can fit the bill to fit in, but you still need a certain, threshold of a certain type, and then you can start adding changelings. I don't think 12's the threshold. I think you need at least, 20 or so you have a good variety, and then you can fit in like the key niches of, put your changelings in there. Yeah,
I'm glad we're talking about changelings. I think changelings are cool. They definitely help out when your tribe doesn't have enough creatures like Atogs.
Yep.
But personally speaking, I kind of get baffled when I see people playing a very popular tribe like goblins or elves or dragons, and you see changelings in there, because it's like, do you really need a Chameleon Colossus when you're running a bunch of 7/7 dragons?
No.
I get Chameleon Colossus and like elves are something small because you're just gonna pump them all.
Yes.
or like a mirror entity in mono white decks. But I do agree. I think there is a limit on where you start putting the changelings into your deck before. You shouldn't start there. You should start with the creature type itself, then figure out if you need any changelings and which ones.
Agreed.
I mean, and we're kind of missing out on the most important changeling in the game, and that's Morphon, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Because, like, he could be... I mean, that pretty much opens up the avenue for any tribe to have a commander of some sort. But I still don't think that he really fits as a commander for every tribe, neither.
Why do you say that?
He's too generic, I think, is what it is. And I know personally, myself, and a lot of people when I watch them building or whenever they have questions about their decks, is they want to be, inclusive into the deck. They don't want something that's just generic that everyone's playing. They want to be different. They want to just be, do something cool. But yet Morphon doesn't fit that bill. It's just like, yeah, I could play Morphon, but is there anything else? That's always the question you get is there anything else aside from Morphon that I could play? And I think it's just because people don't want to be that straight up Morphon deck is a Morphon deck. It reduces cost. And then everyone, wants to kill the Morphon player because they have pretty much like a cheat card out commander type of thing. Right.
Is Morphon one of those commanders that you would say is like a bullseye commander? Because of it is really easy to, go to Scryfall and take the search text so you can load your deck up with all the creatures that essentially are free as long as Morphon is out?
I wouldn't want to say bullseye because a lot of the Morphon decks that I play against, they're not the OP style. So it doesn't ever lead me to want to bullseye them. But I could see if I'm in like turn 4 and, I realize that's what your deck's doing, then definitely it would become a bullseye.
Gotcha. Yeah. I've played against an Angel Tribal Morphon deck, which was pretty cool because it does help reduce all those colored pips. And you get to play every Angel in the game versus being stuck to like mono white or maybe Orzhov or something like that.
Yeah, I know our shop owner, after I had discussed about doing the 5-color Eldrazi with Morphon, he actually built that. And it's very interesting to play. I've played the deck, and there are times where you can just start casting stuff for free because you have like, I have Ugin out and stuff like that reduces the cost of your Eldrazi. So, I mean, you can, but it takes a lot of revolving pieces. And I think Morphon's just in there to make it a 5-color Eldrazi commander because it's technically a colorless creature, so it kind of fits the colorless Eldrazi theme. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What other tribes do you think are undervalued or need a little more help? Whether that's more support cards, maybe a few more changelings, or just we need more of them printed in general outside of Atogs. We've already talked about Atogs and oofs.
So one that got brought up to me, and actually I looked it up to, see about it. And this is from my coworker, Dylan. He said that he thinks Phoenixes need some more support. And I was like, oh, really? And he went into it and he told me that there's finally now a legendary Phoenix. So this came out in the new Capenna Commander decks.
That's right.
Yep, it's Cyrix, I think is how you pronounce it. Carrier of the Flame. And it's, 3/3 for 4, like most of the Phoenixes are, with flying and haste. But it is in Rakdos. So, I mean, it is pretty cool. It has an ability at the beginning of each end step. If a creature card left your graveyard this turn, target Phoenix you control deals damage equal to its power to any target. So it fits the theme of Phoenixes and whatnot, because Phoenixes, they die and come back to life type of thing. And then it also reads, whenever another Phoenix you control dies, you may cast Cyrix, Carrier of Flame from your graveyard. So, I mean, it seems pretty cool. I don't know if it's any good or whatnot. There's only 400 and some decks, I think is what it said. 476 decks on EDH Rec that actually have been built out of this. So quite a few since the beginning of this card, which is, a couple months now? Something like that?
Yeah, not even a few months old.
Yep. But it's still, I don't think I've ever seen a Lord for Phoenixes. I don't think I've ever seen anything that's like dedicated towards Phoenixes. It's just that Phoenixes are just a creature type of thing. So that's something that he had brought up to me, and I'm like, that would be pretty cool to see, because there are actually a lot of Phoenixes.
30. There's 30 of them.
If you think back, almost every set has at least one, if not like every couple of sets, then there is one. And, you just think about it, there's phoenixes are rare, so there shouldn't be a whole lot of them. But I like the idea overall. I think it would be pretty cool to see something like this to get some sort of help, because it seems like it'd be a cool tribe to try and play.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I believe our editor Raphael has a Phoenix deck.
Sweet.
But I think he uses Gerard, Captain of the Guard, the Boros one.
Okay.
I think they were using that for a while. I don't know if they've updated that deck or still have it, but I know for a while they had a Phoenix deck. And I remember them commenting when Cyrix was previewed in the deck. But yeah, again, Phoenixes are one of those cards you just get one almost every set, if not once in every standard rotation. So within 4 sets, you're getting at least one Phoenix. I mean, and they're all typically at the rare or mythic level. Again, that lore-wise makes sense. Phoenixes are rare. I never put that together. So good job, Chris.
No, that's just, I really liked that idea when he brought it up to me. So I was like, yep, I will look into this and I will talk about it.
One of the ones I always think of is mirrors.
Ooh, yeah. They're all over the place.
They're all over the place. They're in every color, but there really isn't a great legendary for them.
Could it be because they're more of an automaton type of thing, so they're not like a actual like race or whatever, so it's more of like an
army?
Yeah, they were kind of created type of thing. I don't know the lore of Mir, so I could be like way off on this, but that's just what I think. I think of them as like a robot type of thing. So they're more of just, they were created by whatever, so that's why they're all over the place, and so they don't have any dedicated like, hey, I am the leader of you type of thing.
Yeah, that might be right. They're little tiny robots, so I think a legendary mirror would have to be like something happened, Phyrexian invaded, or something like that, where it's becoming living sentient.
Yep.
But just looking at the EDH rec page, like the top commanders for Mir Tribal are Brutaclad, Morphon, and Brea, which all make sense because 2 of those deal with artifacts and 2 of them deal with tokens.
Yep.
But Mirs have so many good support cards, which I like. Mirrodin Besiege is a great one from Modern Horizons 1.
Okay.
Because that's the one where whenever you cast an artifact, you can make a mirror.
Okay.
Otherwise, the Phyrexian mode is end step, draw a card, and discard a card. If you have 15 or more artifact cards in your graveyard, someone loses the game.
Yes, that's the card that Dana always seems to have on me whenever I play Mill, and bunch of redonkulousness.
I think he does what I do with Cyclonicus. He just keeps 1 in every sleeve behind the card that's actually in the front of the sleeve in case he needs it. You have any other ones from the shop folk that talked about tribes there, Chris?
No, it was just the big 3 of Oof, that frogs, and phoenixes. I know we were thinking, what was the other one that we were... was it slimes or oozes or something like that?
Yeah.
But I know that they just got something, so I don't know if it's any good. And we were actually looking up, and I thought there was like 40 of them at one point or something. But other than that, I can't really think of anything that's super big that, comes to the top of my head. I can think of tribes that have been out for a long time that could use more, but nothing that's like missing right now.
Okay, so let's move over to that. Tribes that are popular but need more. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. What would be the first one that comes to mind in that category?
Actually, something we discussed off air before we started, and that was Merfolk. Merfolk is, extremely popular in other formats, but not so much in EDH. And I'm not sure what the reasoning is behind it. Maybe it's because the abilities that Merfolk have for like your 1v1 type of formats is just much more powerful than it is in a multiplayer format. So I'm not sure if that's the reason. I'm not sure if people just don't like the fish people. I have no clue what the reason is.
Yeah, you're right. We were talking about this off air, and this is always one that pops up in my head too, of existing tribes that just are almost there but are not. And off air, I actually said I don't get it because they play very similar to elves. They're cheap, low-costed creatures that typically help out the rest of your merfolk somehow, whether it's, creatures with power 1 or less can't be blocked. Creatures with a +1/+1 counter on them can't be blocked. I think the issue, though, when comparing them to elves is none of them tap for mana.
Yeah.
Like
it could be the color combination, too, because majority of your good merfolk are in blue. Whereas, like your elves are green. Granted, people are yelling at me now, we got green merfolk. And I'm like, yeah, I know we got green merfolk, but they're still not good. So, I mean, that could just be the thing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at Scryfall here, and it looks like every color, there's a merfolk for every color, but it's all 2-color pairs. So, like, there's Simic, Mono Blue, Dimir, Izzet, Simic, and there's an Orzhov one. So we're still missing a green-white merfolk, but Tuvasa's 3 colors, so we'll count that.
Close enough.
Yeah. So there's no, like, Rakdos merfolk yet. That'd be kind of cool.
That'd be odd.
And no Boros merfolk. But I think everything else is covered. I don't know. Someone let us know, because I'm not going to do the math on what color combinations I'm missing on this.
I could see a Boros merfolk coming before a Rakdos.
Yeah.
I don't really see an evil red, black merfolk. I can't see it right now. I could see Boros more because it'd be more of a soldier merfolk type of thing, but not the other way.
Yeah. But, the interesting thing is all of those have blue. Blue is the primary color. So, like, to make something Rakdos eventually be a 3-color merfolk, we'll get a Grixis merfolk or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree. I think merfolk is so cool because it's just like elves, little tiny creatures, and they do a bunch of stuff. But the issue, in my opinion, is they're doing too many different things. So, like, there are merfolk from Ixalan that care about +1/+1 counters. There are the merfolk from Lorwyn, just kind of care about other merfolks. They're more anthems. But there's not anything that truly says, tap for mana. And I think that's where it kind of loses speed against elves, specifically comparing against elves.
Yep, I can get behind that. I still think it's just a color thing is what it is. That's honestly just what I think it is. Okay.
One of the ones I always think about that are good, but maybe need a little more is soldiers.
Really?
Yeah. Because, and I don't think it's a color thing for me. I think it is a commander thing for me.
Okay, I could get behind that.
I mean, there's legendary soldiers in every color you can think of, but they all do very different things, are very similar things. So, like, anything in Boros is going to care about either a bunch of bodies or artifacts.
Yep.
Which not a lot of individual soldiers make artifacts. It's more about making an army. Bramaz just makes tokens. I mean, Chun-Li, coming in from the Street Fighter Secret Lair, is a soldier, surprisingly. And that cares about instants and sorceries. Like, that's not doing anything about an army in a can. So I think, for me, soldiers, I love that idea. I love the army in the can. Playing the cards that you play this, you make 2 tokens, or play this, you make 3 tokens, and then it's also a lord or an anthem. But there's no... In my opinion, there's not a great commander that says, hey, for every soldier you control, do something. Or when you cast a soldier, do something. And if there is, it's probably in the wrong colors. Like, it's probably in Dimir.
Probably. I think the issue with soldiers is that X amount of them, like a percentage, I'm just going to, take a wild guess shot in the dark at this and say 80% of soldiers are humans.
Yep.
And the human tribe is probably just better as a human tribe over soldiers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I honestly thought you were going to say 80% of them are in, like, mono white, and now
That's probably true, too.
Now we're also talking the mono white problem. But yeah, I really like that idea. I used to have an Odric deck. I had both Odric decks at one point in my EDH tenure here. But they just never worked. And again, mono white problem, and that was 7 years ago. So
yep.
It's gotten better, as we've discussed a little bit last week on our Boros show.
Yes. I actually played against a Boros deck this week, and they were playing Boros Planeswalkers. Wasn't a very good deck.
Was it Dana? Was it Dana? Because he said he might switch to Boros Planeswalkers.
No, it's one of the kids in the shop.
Gotcha.
He plays the wolf and the guy, the flipping walker or whatever it is.
Oh, yep. Arden.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it. I know it's one side's a wolf and one side's the dude, and I don't
know. From Ikoria, yep.
Yeah. And I mean, the deck's okay, like you have all the removal that you could need, because red does a good job at removing things. It's just that you're lacking because of white. And, then it goes into our Boros topic that we talked about last week and that stuff. So I think that might actually be a good thing for soldiers, though, too, is that, the good ones are Boros, and then you run into the Boros issue. I think that could just probably be the issue with them.
Okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. Do you have any others we can discuss that might need a little more help that are still pretty popular today?
I can think of a tribe that actually got a lot of help in Modern Horizons.
Okay.
And that was Elementals.
Yes.
Elementals received a lot of like oomph in the last couple of years, and I think it's been picking up how good they are. Like, I actually have seen a lot of people playing Elemental decks, and one of the newer players, one of my fellow coworkers, Matt, he plays an Omnath deck, and it's not necessarily Elementals, but it just coincidentally a lot of the cards are Elementals in there, and I'm like, maybe we should try to have him switch this into Tribal. He might have more fun playing it.
Which color of the Jelly Bean is he playing?
4-color Omnath. So the one that's the land, because it's meant to be a landfall deck, but a lot of the cards are just Elemental by coincidence, because they just kind of fit into the deck. So
gotcha. Yeah, whenever I think of Elementals, I either think of Hoarded Notions.
Okay.
Because that was like one of the original 5-color Elemental commanders. Yep. Or I think about 2-color Omnath, the Angry Jelly Bean, because of the fact that it does both really well. It can be a landfall deck because you're going to make all the mini Jelly Beans by playing your lands, and then you get rid of those to lightning bolt everybody. Or you can do the complete opposite and just play a bunch of Elementals in green and red and just get value by playing your lands every turn.
Yeah, I really like the idea of, like a 4-color Elementals and like dedicate it to Elementals. Just because, they have so many different abilities that could be good on them and stuff. So, I mean, it's just like, seems like it'd be fun. I don't want to build another deck right now.
That's why I do one a year. The next one I was thinking about was Hydras.
Hydras, yes. I've seen a Hydra theme deck once. And they were playing Ulasht, I think it was.
Oh, the one that devour X?
Yeah, something like that. And it's like Ulash the Hate Breed or something. I don't remember what it is. I thought it was Ulash Hateful or something. I don't know. It was a really weird deck. It was red-green, and it was just like, oh, guess what? Now I, chuck another guy at you, and I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah. Ulash the Hate Seed is not the Devour one. Ulash the Hate Seed is the, he enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each other red creature you control, and a +1/+1 counter for each other green creature you control. And you can pay 1 to remove a counter to deal damage to target creature or make a Saproling.
Okay. Interesting.
Oh, that's right, because the Devour dude is not a Hydra. He's a worm, I think.
There's another one, worms. Like, you don't really see that. I mean, you can see like 1 of 2 of maybe worms or whatever, and I guarantee there's a lot of worms, because I can think of quite a few off the top of my head. But, like, who really wants to play worms? I mean, we were all kids
one legendary worm.
Yeah, I mean, we were all kids once and liked playing in the dirt and all that, but I think, as we got older, we're like, nah, worms aren't fun to play with anymore.
Yeah. No, I think Hydras are super cool. We're going to go back to that quick. A good friend of the show, Dan Krause, has a Hydra deck, maybe still. He flips his commanders, so either it's going to be Sylvala, the mono green Sylvala, just because he can use it to ramp.
Yep.
Or he runs Gargos, Vicious Watcher, which is the one that reduces your Hydras by 4.
Ooh.
And then whenever a creature you control becomes a target of a spell, Gargos fights a creature you don't control.
Okay. I like that a lot. That actually seems like it'd be really good, because a lot of times your Hydras come out and they're just, they're X costing cards, so they're going to be big anyways. So that seems pretty good.
Otherwise, another more popular Hydra that was released recently was Zaxara, the Exemplary, out of the Ikoria Commander decks in 2020. That's the Sultai one that has Death Touch. You can tap it to add 2 of any mana of any one color. Then whenever you cast an X spell, and it's a spell with X in its mana cost, you make an 0/0 Hydra, then put X 1/1 counters on it.
Yeah, which actually fits the theme twice there, because a lot of Hydras have the X in their casting cost, plus you're sticking on theme with creature type. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think Hydras are cool. I think they're big. Again, that's just kind of my playstyle, though. I like big, fat, dumb creatures that are going to hit you really hard.
Yes.
Okay, Chris, I think to wrap up the show, what are your top 2 or 3 support cards that you run in a tribal deck? I'm putting you on the spot here, and I'm doing the same thing to myself.
Top support cards. So in my Spiders deck, it would probably be anything that gives me an Anthem or goes through for the creature types. So, for instance, we have Vanquisher's Banner, Herald's Banner, cards such as that, something that helps you to either dig through your deck for certain key cards of that creature type, or that give you the Anthem, or let you draw whenever you cast a creature type. Something along those lines, I think, are the top cards that you should play in a tribal deck, followed by Lords and other fun jazz like that.
Yep, I was going to say Vanquisher's Banner was one of my top choices. I love Coat of Arms as a finisher in my tribal decks.
Yep, which that can backfire.
It definitely can, but it's pretty rare unless you set it up. Everybody at the table is playing a tribal deck. So if you just can
that
time
one
it
of
right,
changeling that someone has in the deck, and they're like, whoa.
Yep. I also think about lands, so I know a lot of people can't afford this card. I know I can't, but like Cavern of Souls.
Yes.
Along with Path of Ancestry, that's the cheaper version that cares about creature type, I believe. I should know I have like 8 of them.
I thought Path of Ancestry was for the general.
Add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. When that mana is spent to cast a creature with that shares a creature type, you scry.
Okay. I couldn't remember if it was that or if that was the one that you put counters on or whenever your commander comes into play, it gets X more counters or something.
Opal Palace.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those would be, I think we both agree, like the Lords, the Anthems, but yeah, then I think lands. Lands are important. I'm not telling you guys to go run out and buy Cavern of Souls, even though they'll dip a little bit when Commander Legends 3, aka Double Masters 2, comes out at the end of this week. Honestly, release date is this coming Friday, I think.
I don't remember now. I remember if it's this Friday or next Friday now. Oh, wait, today is Friday, so it might be next Friday.
It's the 8th. Yeah, it's the 8th.
Yep. I'm thinking today is like Wednesday or something like that.
Oh, no, I don't want it to be Wednesday anymore.
Yeah. So other cards that come into my mind when I'm thinking about tribal are cards that read choose a creature type. So, for instance, like your Patriarch's Bidding, other cards like that, where you choose a creature type and then X happens for that creature type, because you're just going to gain the advantage of that card, whereas no one else is going to gain any advantage.
Yeah, so things like Arcane Adaptation, Kindred Discovery.
Yes.
Adaptive Automaton. I mean, yep. that's a robo changeling, essentially.
Yes. I know there are other cards that you could be, along those lines, like, for instance, I play Living Death in Spiders. Well, now Living Death in other, like a Reanimator built a deck or something like that, is really, really good. But in my Spiders deck, all my Spiders, they're all tribal, so if I have any sort of thing out there, returning all my Spiders just makes them exponentially better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, anything that, because you're already on tribal, the more of one of the creature types that you have out on the battlefield, the better off that your deck becomes.
Yep, I totally agree. That's a great call. Okay, Chris, any final thoughts on tribes in EDH for the week?
I love tribes. I love watching people play tribes because the decks just synergize good together. There's not much that they do differently, though, is the sad thing. Like, most of the tribal decks that I see, they're always playing, like, the certain, like, 5 or 6 cards in them. The deck's always, focused usually on combat damage. I don't really see, like, a tribal deck that's focused on doing something other wacky shenanigans. It's pretty much an aggro deck, but most of the time. So, I mean, that's probably the only thing I don't like about them. But I think they're awesome because people love them. And it was a great, thing that Wizards did, coming up with something where they just keep adding more and more of the same stuff so people can, stick with what they love.
Yeah, well said. I agree with a lot of that. I think tribal decks are a lot of fun. I think some are better than others, which there are definitely tribes that need support, and we discussed some of those. You made a great point about you see the same percentage of cards in every certain type of tribal deck. You're going to see the same 12 elves in most elves decks. You're going to see the same 10 merfolk in most merfolk decks. You're going to see the same 5 Eldrazi in Eldrazi decks. But they're just fun, and in my opinion, like, if it's late at night at the shop and I really don't want to think hard, I want to play a tribal deck because it tends to play easier, or just because it's so cohesive, it doesn't take a lot of brain power until it comes to like that final, I think I can win the turn.
Agreed.
So awesome. So thank you everybody for listening to episode 323 of Commander Central. Our podcast is edited by Rafael Garcia. They can be found on Twitter at Ursa Bearwalker. Our podcast theme is Retro Future Dirty by Kevin MacLeod, licensed via Creative Commons. You can reach out to us. You can find Dana on Twitter at Dana Roach. You can find me at CMDRCentral_Max. And you can find Chris at YSquishy1. We'll be back next week with a whole new show. Until then, I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.